Welcome to the Power of Nature podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Waldo. In this show, I talk about how nature and the natural world can communicate with us, how it can communicate directly and individually with each of us, and how this can create immeasurable benefits for us in our lives. I share stories of my experiences doing this as part of a regular and ongoing practice, and I talk to others about their experiences with the power of nature as well. So join me as we go on a journey of learning about the power of nature, how it can communicate directly with us, and the impact that it can have on our own lives. Welcome back to the Power of Nature podcast. In today's show, I'm talking about waking up to snow. Waking up to how snow can benefit us. Waking up to what snow can show us and communicate with us and help us see and understand that can be all the good stuff. So let's dive into this. This is kind of a follow-up. I guess it's a follow-up to episode 16, which was called The Magical Benefits of Snow. And that was an episode, I think that it hadn't really snowed much at that point here in Montana. I think we had a dusting of snow, a little bit of snow, and then it kind of melted. But since then, we've had snow here in Montana. Not a ton, but enough to be on the ground, and there's white everywhere. And as someone who recorded an episode for 16 of the magical benefits of snow, it's funny how even though I love snow, I can also kind of not like snow or kind of forget that I like snow. I forget about the magical benefits of snow. And that's kind of why I'm talking in today's episode about waking up to the benefits of snow. Waking up to what snow can do for us. Waking up to it, right? Because for me, it's kind of like I was just kind of going around. We got snow, and I don't know if it fell overnight. I didn't have that kind of magical moment where snow was falling, where you're like, that first snow or that first big snow. We kind of got snow in the night, and it was kind of like a wake up, and now you're thinking about all the things you didn't do before the snow hit that you should have done, we didn't get the chicken coop thing done, and we didn't do this thing to the pasture, and now there's snow all over the ground, and it's gonna mean whatever, right? How many times are we kind of snow's here, and now we're gonna be living in the snow, and it's going to mean, difficulty traveling, or difficulty, it's going to mean shoveling, or, any number of things wherever you live. But, it's like I felt that, right? I was but I also know I love snow, right? If you listen to episode 16, I love snow. So I was kind of where's my magical moments with snow that I know I have and can experience? And I talked about in episode 16, where are those? And like, oh, now I've got to, oh, my cart doesn't work for pulling the hay out to the horses. I've got to use the sled. And is the sled big enough for 3 horses? And, there's just kind of like, it was kind of like this day-to-day stuff of like all these things that felt not so good related to snow. I've got to find my cleats because the snow is now going to turn icy. And when I go out to feed my horses, I could land on my butt, and really hurt my back if I don't have cleats on. I bought these cleats the first year we moved here for the winter, and I put them on and I keep them on all winter. And they basically are these like really spiky cleats that you put on your winter boots, and they give you traction when you're trekking across a driveway that is often snow covered, but then with the ice underneath, right? So like there's just all these things, and yet I find that it's like it's okay to have that. But I also find that it's when I just let that be, and I let myself just kind of be, that these magical experiences can happen, or I can wake up to snow. It's like I'm not trying to go out like, where's the magical benefits of snow? It doesn't work like that. I find that it's when I just kind of like sink into the moment and just do what I'm going to do, that the magical moments with snow or the wonderful experiences with nature kind of kick in. It's like I wake up to them, in the mundane things. So let me give you a couple of examples. One I talked about in the, what was it? I think it was the Riding from the Inside Out podcast. I'm not sure which episode. But I had this like awareness that I needed to get my horses out of the mud, because there was like this mud from the snow and it kind of like melting and then creating more mud and whatever. So I ended up the one day having this feeling, give my horses hay further down in the pasture, where there's kind of like clean snow and it's not so muddy, and that's going to be better for them and their health and whatever. And then the second day it was like, go even further down, and I had this like amazing experience with my horses. I talked about this in the Riding from the Inside Out podcast. Yeah. I can't remember which number, but it's like the snow and the experience, with my horses, then helped me to go further down the driveway, move their hay down. And then I got to have this like amazing experience where my horses started like running around and playing in the snow and rolling in the snow and galloping and bucking. And it was like all the stuff that I love about my horses. I love connecting with them in that way. It's just the foundation of what I love about my relationship with them. And, and it happened because I was listening to my horses and doing stuff for my horses, and also because there was snow. There was this like amazing beauty of snow. So there was that. There was also a situation where yesterday I was driving. I had to go get my husband decided to clean out our pasture before it gets too icy, because we hadn't done it before the snow. So he's, on his tractor, like cleaning everything out, and I'm like, okay, we cleaned out the shelter too, or he cleaned out the shelter. So I'm like, I'll run to the local store and get some shavings for the horses, so that we can replace the bedding that's in their shelter. So I'm driving along, not thinking anything of it. It's not, it's just like an errand, right? Like, you got to do this, you go do this. But as I'm driving, and it was a gray day in Montana yesterday. It is today as well. But as I was driving, it was like everything's white, It's not freshly fallen snow. There's, plenty of like stuff around, freshly fallen snow where everything's like pristine white. It's not like that. It's like snow that's been here a little bit, cars have been driving in it, people have been walking in it, it's mixed with mud, whatever. But as I was driving, I saw like the mountains around us. We're surrounded by all these mountains. There's a mountain range right in front of our house that extends up into the Rockies. There are the mountains of Glacier National Park, which are huge. And there's kind of like these mountains around. And one of the things about these mountains is that in the summer, when the snow has melted and they just look green, they're pretty. I like looking at the mountains. But when the mountains have snow on them, like any amount of snow, it's like they wow me. They wow me. Like, literally, they just make my heart stop. So here I was doing this mundane thing, which is driving to Murdoch's, this store that has, shavings and stuff like that, horse food. And it's kind of like a Western, agriculture, Western wear store with horse feed and shavings and stuff like that. So I'm driving there, no big deal. I go there all the time. I'm always like there getting more food or getting more this or getting more that. There was nothing exciting about the drive, right? I'm just driving on this drive. It's kind of like mundane, whatever. But I started to see how all the mountains around me had snow on them. Much more snow than I think the last time that I had driven over there. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's like these, like I forgot, there's like this one amazing view where you kind of go through this like not very exciting part of our town. It's kind of like a strip with a lot of just not very aesthetically pleasing in, from a design perspective, commercial buildings on each side. So basically not anything exciting or magical. And then you're like up on this kind of like slight elevation of a hill, and you can kind of see off in the distance. You see the mountain of the ski resort that's near here. You see the mountain ranges, you see the trees, you see the field. You can often see like patches of fog and where the snow is. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't capture it with a camera ever. I've tried to like pull over and capture it, but it's something that you just can't capture, where you're just looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh. And the thing is, this same drive never looks the same without snow. It's with snow that it just looks so different. With snow, it's like, it's magical. It's amazing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So then I'm driving. I go to the store. I get the shavings. I'm coming back. And now I'm coming back to the mountains, or to this, other mountain range that's kind of along our house. And there's this like patch of sun on the mountain. And so everything's kind of like gray and black and white, but then there's this like golden light in certain sections from the way the sun was casting as the day was getting on. And it was just this like amazing thing. And the mountains, like right now, I'm sitting in my office even, and the mountain in front of us, I love this mountain. I love looking at it. But when it has snow on it, it is so much better. It's like the snow collects in certain sections and it creates this like definition of the mountain. Like you realize how big the mountain is when the snow's not there and the mountain's just kind of all green. You just kind of see dirt and you see the trees. Like it kind of looks like a bit of a kind of a big blob. You can't really tell how big it is. But when the snow has fallen on it, you could really see like how big this mountain is and how there are parts of it that are part of actual, like what looks like all one mountain isn't, because there's like these other parts that are separate mountains behind. But you can't really tell that when there's no snow. But when there's snow, you get that definition and you can see it. And I'm looking at that right now, and it's just amazing. I mean, so many of my paintings that I do are inspired by the mountains with snow on them. Actually, I think I've done like maybe one or two paintings, if any, with no snow on them, and all of the rest of them have snow on them because I love the mountains with snow on them. It takes my breath away. It just is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I feel like this kind of beauty, it's like a connection with nature that can just sneak up on us, or we can just kind of wake up to it when we just are going about our lives. We're just kind of doing what we're doing, and then just in the kind of like ritual of it, just kind of the breathing of our daily practices, it's like we can see amazing things. I mean, I'll never forget last year. I think it was last year. I was out taking care of my horses, and it was really cold. It was below zero, and it's like that kind of cold where the little clips on our gates don't work. I have to take my glove off in below zero weather and heat up the little gate hook. I have to heat it with my hand in order for me to be able to open it, because it's kind of frozen. It's like that cold, right? Like, and you're like, oh, I've got to do this. My hand's frozen and blah, 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 whatever. But it was like I was standing there doing that, like just putting my warm hand on this frozen gate, freezing my hand off, kind of like grumbling about the whole thing, when I happened to look over and I just kind of had this view of how these like icicles and snowflakes had collected on the fence right next to me, and how they had also collected on some pieces of horse mane that had pulled off from the fence. The horse had probably stretched over the fence, and there were a couple strands of hair, and the ice and the snow had collected on it, and it was like this. It was like an ornament that you could get at Pottery Barn, like it was like that perfect, right? These are the things that you can see when you just kind of like go about your day and you just kind of like settle in, and you just kind of like let things be what they are. But the snow and nature often has so many amazing things that we can just tune into and just have these moments of like delight and beauty just affect us, affect me for sure. I mean, this has happened to me over and over again. Another thing that happened today that I wanted to share was So that stuff that I was talking about with driving in the mountains, like that or seeing the mountains around me, that was yesterday, right? So then this morning, I woke up and, I'm like, okay, I gotta go out in the snow and let the chickens out, and I did that. And then I came back inside and I was trying to get stuff ready. I was trying to eat and do other stuff so that I, could just kind of get on with my day. And I hadn't eaten and my blood sugar's low, and I'm like, okay, but I gotta go feed the horses first. And it's like, my point is, it's mundane. It's like, I'm kind of cranky. I'm kind of annoyed about the whole deal. I'm helping my youngest son find a pair of socks because my husband is going to take him to try to get a used pair of snowboard boots for the season for him to go snowboarding. And it's kind of a bit like pulling teeth to get him to find socks in his room, like we're looking through and we can't find any socks. Like, where are his socks? This is a kid that, in like 20-degree weather or -degree weather, he'll be like, I don't need to wear socks. And you're like, yes, you do need to wear socks. So I don't know where the socks are hidden, but they're, somewhere, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my blood sugar is tanked and I've got to feed the horses and I want to do all this other stuff. My point is, it's not like I was like, ooh, I'm feeling great. Ooh, I'm feeling excited. No, I was kind of like cranky and tired and, like having blood sugar issues and just like I have to go feed my horses and then I can come in and eat something and, whatever. So I have to, I go out to get the hay, and the hay, of course, is like, there was all this stuff with a tarp. I had all these problems with the tarp. I had to like get the tarp and my blood sugar's dropping more and whatever. Right. So I finally get the tarp, or I get the sled full of hay, and I'm carrying it down, sliding it down in the snow to where I'm going to feed the horses. And I'm just kind of like putting one foot in front of the other, just being like, okay, I will get to eat soon. I will get, some nourishment. Like I'm feeling kind of woozy right now, and I'm just kind of walking, just trying to get through this. Right. And as I'm doing this, I'm walking down our driveway to where I'm going to give the horses their hay. And I see in the snow these footprints, these tracks. And I'm like, what is that? And it was, I don't know. It was maybe a rabbit. I don't know, but it made me stop. It was like there were these fresh tracks across the driveway that I hadn't seen before. I didn't see yesterday, So, and they kind of just made me stop. And I was like, wow, I actually haven't seen any rabbits here. But like suddenly it was like this really cool thing. Like, wow, there could just be rabbits going across our property that I never see. I remember, I think it was 2 winters ago, where I saw this really weird marking. I thought it was like a series of arrows. And it turned out it was actually, I think it was a pheasant or a grouse. So it turned out that I had seen in the snow evidence of pheasant or grouse that I had no idea live on our property. Now, this is important to me because I love nature and I've wanted to live in a place where, wildlife lives. But I haven't seen any grouse or pheasant here on our property. I've seen them around over by the river, kind of about 15 minutes away when I drive to the town. I've seen them kind of in that area, but I've not seen them here. And so it was like this amazing thing. Like, wow, I know we have deer, and I know we have had a turkey come across our property. We have lots of birds, other birds like that fly, like eagles and hawks and, jays and all of that. But there's something so cool about the snow that lets you see what is there that you don't know is there. Like, to me, this was yet another like magical benefit of snow, right? Because without the snow, I wouldn't have seen the tracks. And without the tracks, I wouldn't have thought about the fact that these amazing animals are here with us on our property. And that's something that I love. I love that we have these amazing animals on our property. I love that our property is like safe enough and is like this safe haven enough for, the deer to come and for animals, wildlife to just come and be on our property with us. I love that. I've dreamed of having property like that, and we now do. I lived in a more urban environment for a long time, and we just didn't have this, and I always wanted this, and now I have it. And what an amazing experience. And it came from the snow, and I was grumbling the whole way. I was grumbling because I was like, oh, my blood sugar is tanked, and oh, I've just got to feed the horses, and oh, I've got to get back in and eat, and oh, I had to deal with my kid who didn't want to wear socks and couldn't seem to find a pair of socks anywhere, even though it's winter time, and all of that. But in the whole like experience of that, I had this amazing situation where the snow helped to remind me of magic. Just like yesterday when I was driving to the store, I'm just like, I gotta go get these shavings and then come back. And I look around and the mountains covered with snow just take my breath away. Like literally, like my heart just felt like it like opened up, and I just felt like it was this amazing connection with everything, with beauty and love and energy and delight and magic. I find over and over and over again, this is what nature and the natural world just can do for us. I talk all about it in the show. I talk about it in my other shows as well. And I've learned to not just recognize that, but to try to remember to make a practice of consciously reminding myself of that. What I mean by that is giving myself experiences in which I go out into nature, or I open myself up into nature to allow myself to have those kinds of experiences with nature. I allow myself to be open for what it is nature can show me, what it is nature is teaching me, what it is, and I find that, nature is in sync with my inner self. And so my inner self knows what I find special, what I find beautiful. And I've experienced this over and over again. Like I could go out into the woods and I can experience something with nature that to me is amazing. And someone else, like my husband or someone else, can go to the same place and they can look at the same thing and they can have an amazing experience, but it can be different because their inner self knows what they love. Like I might go out and see a tree and I might just notice like the bark and how beautiful the texture is. And they might go out and see the same tree and notice the leaves and or the the needles or whatever. Like nature, I find kind of speaks to us individually. It's like a personalized thing, if you will. And snow can also do that as part of nature. Maybe for you, you go out and you're just driving along in the mundaneness of snow, but then suddenly you see, I don't know, a snowman, and it reminds you of moments in your childhood of making a snowman and memories with a beloved family member. Or maybe for you, it's, going to a ski resort and you're just on the chairlift by yourself, and suddenly you see the glistening of snow melting on the metal of the lift, and it reminds you of something, with a friend, or it reminds you of a time with friends that felt really good. I find that nature can be this amazing source of beauty and connection with us, with ourselves, with the world, with the earth. And to me, snow is one of those things. And so I open myself up. I try to open myself up to more practices like this, to intentionally go out and not try to make snow give me magical moments, but just go out appreciating snow, because I find that in that openness and that appreciation, it's like that's when stuff happens. I'm not trying to make myself have a magical moment with snow or with nature, but I know that nature is beautiful and I know the power of it in my life, and I go out and I let myself just be open to it, and I just let myself just be and breathe. And it is in those moments that amazing things can happen. I can see something or notice something or think of something or remember something. But I also know that the more that I do this, I can just be cranky as heck, driving along a road and having low blood sugar, or, walking down a driveway or doing some kind of mundane errand, and nature can wow me. Snow can wow me. Snow-covered mountains can take my breath away. And to me, those experiences are like gold. The feelings that I have when I have those kinds of moments and connection with nature are just so amazing. It's so amazing. I can't even put words to it. But if you've had an experience like that, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's like words don't suffice. But the experience is one that's wonderful and such a blessing. And that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode. And I am going to leave it at that until the next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Power of Nature podcast. To learn more about me and my other offerings, you can visit my website at michellewaldo.com. That's MICHELLEWALDO.com.